Good evening, everyone. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where someone you deeply care about pulls away, and no matter what you do, they seem to drift further? Maybe you've heard the advice, go no contact. They'll come back when they're ready. But here's the burning question. Does no contact push an avoidant away forever, or does it make them miss you? To answer this, we need to understand the psychology behind avoidance. Avoidant attachment styles develop as a defense mechanism, often from childhood experiences where emotional closeness felt unsafe. When conflict arises, an avoidant person's first instinct is to create distance, not out of cruelty, but as self-protection. So does going no contact make them run forever, or does it create a space where they feel safe to return? The truth is, it depends on how you handle it. Today, I'll break this down into 6 key insights that will not only help you understand avoidant behavior, but also guide you in deciding whether no contact is the right strategy for you. Avoidants need space to feel safe because their emotional wiring is fundamentally different from those with secure or anxious attachment styles. When someone with an avoidant attachment experiences emotional closeness, their subconscious mind often perceives it as a threat rather than a source of comfort. This reaction isn't about the other person, it's about how they've learned to protect themselves from perceived emotional danger. Their natural response to emotional intensity is withdrawal, creating distance to regulate their inner world. This is why, when a relationship reaches a stage where deeper emotional intimacy is required, an avoidant partner may suddenly become distant, unresponsive, or even disappear altogether. No contact can actually help in this scenario because it removes the external pressure they feel to engage when they are emotionally overwhelmed. An avoidant person doesn't withdraw because they don't care, but because they fear engulfment, the feeling of losing themselves in a relationship. This fear stems from past experiences, often in childhood, where emotional needs weren't met consistently or where vulnerability led to pain. As a result, they developed a self-reliant coping mechanism that prioritizes independence over closeness. When an avoidant pulls away and the other person chases them, it only reinforces their belief that relationships come with suffocating expectations. If they feel pressure to respond, explain themselves, or provide reassurance when they are not emotionally prepared, their instinct is to retreat further. This is why pursuing them, pleading, or demanding communication often backfires. It reinforces their fear that relationships mean losing personal autonomy, making them associate closeness with stress rather than security. No contact creates the space they need to process their emotions on their own terms. It allows them to sit with their feelings without external influence, which can sometimes lead them to recognize what they truly value in the relationship. Avoidants often do miss the person they distance themselves from, but they need to come to this realization internally. If they feel they have the freedom to return without pressure, they may be more inclined to reconnect. However, this process takes time as avoidants process emotions at a much slower pace compared to those with anxious or secure attachment styles. For no contact to be effective, it must be genuinely about giving space rather than being a strategy to manipulate or force a response. Avoidants sense emotional pressure even in subtle ways, and if they feel that space is being given with hidden expectations, they may resist even more. The key is to truly detach from the outcome and focus on one's own emotional well-being rather than waiting for an avoidant person to return. When dealing with an avoidant person, the instinct to chase after them when they withdraw is a natural reaction, especially for those who crave reassurance and emotional closeness. However, this very act of chasing reinforces their need for distance rather than bringing them closer. The reason for this lies in the way avoidants perceive emotional pressure. Unlike someone with a secure or anxious attachment style, an avoidant does not view closeness as inherently comforting. Instead, they associate it with expectations, obligations, and a loss of independence. When they feel overwhelmed by emotional demands, their subconscious defense mechanism tells them to create space. This is not necessarily a conscious choice, but rather a learned response that has been ingrained in them over time. When someone chases an avoidant, whether through repeated calls, texts, or trying to convince them to talk, it triggers their fear of being trapped in an emotional situation they are not ready to handle. The more they feel pursued, the more they feel like their autonomy is being threatened. As a result, they withdraw even further, reinforcing the very pattern the other person is trying to break. It is a paradoxical situation where the attempt to bring them closer actually causes them to run in the opposite direction. The moment they sense emotional pressure, their defenses go up, and their primary goal becomes regaining their sense of control over the situation. Avoidants are wired to value independence, often to the extent that they feel uneasy when someone becomes too emotionally invested in them. When they start feeling that their space is being encroached upon, they instinctively push back. This does not mean they do not care or that they do not experience emotions. Rather, they struggle to process them in the way others might expect. They need time and solitude to sort through their feelings, and when that time is not given, their instinct is to disengage completely. The more someone chases an avoidant, the more the avoidant person begins to associate the chaser with stress rather than comfort. Even if the chaser's intentions are purely out of love and care, an avoidant perceives it as pressure. They begin to feel like they are not allowed to function in the way that feels natural to them, and this reinforces their belief that relationships mean sacrificing their personal freedom. Over time, if the cycle continues, the avoidant may start to view the relationship itself as something they need to escape from entirely. Instead of drawing them back, excessive pursuit pushes them toward complete emotional detachment, making true reconnection nearly impossible. No contact must be about you, not just them, because the true purpose of creating distance is self-growth and emotional healing rather than simply trying to influence another person's behavior. When people initiate no contact, they often do so with the hidden expectation that it will make the avoidant partner miss them and come back. However, approaching no contact with this mindset can be counterproductive because it keeps the focus on the other person rather than on personal well-being. True healing begins when no contact is used as a tool for self-reflection and emotional regulation rather than as a strategy to manipulate someone's return. When someone relies on no contact solely as a means to provoke a response, they remain emotionally tethered to the avoidant person. Instead of truly detaching, they constantly check their phone, analyze every social media post, and wonder when or if the avoidant will reach out. This keeps them in a state of emotional limbo, preventing them from genuinely moving forward. No contact only works when it is used as an opportunity to regain personal power rather than as a waiting game for the avoidant to notice their absence. If the time apart is not used for self-growth, then the underlying attachment wounds remain unhealed, and the same patterns will repeat once communication is reestablished. Focusing on personal healing during no contact allows for a shift in perspective. Instead of wondering whether the avoidant will return, the focus turns inward toward building self-worth, emotional independence, and clarity about what is truly desired in a relationship. This period can be used to rediscover personal passions, strengthen friendships, develop new skills, and most importantly, reflect on whether the relationship was truly fulfilling or if it was driven by attachment wounds. When someone engages in this level of self-work, they begin to see their own value outside of the avoidance actions. Ironically, when no contact is genuinely about self-improvement rather than trying to elicit a reaction, it increases the chances of the avoidant person returning. Avoidants are drawn to independence and emotional stability, and when they sense that someone is no longer emotionally dependent on them, they may feel more comfortable re-engaging. However, by that time, the person who initiated no contact may realize they no longer need the relationship in the way they once thought. The ultimate goal of no contact should not be to bring an avoidant back, but to ensure that when or if they do return, it is to a person who is emotionally strong, self-assured, and unwilling to settle for anything less than a secure and fulfilling connection. Avoidants often come back, but only if they feel safe. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of avoidant attachment. Many people believe that once an avoidant withdraws, they are gone forever, but that is not necessarily true. Avoidants do experience emotions and attachment, they simply process them differently. Their instinct is to distance themselves when they feel overwhelmed by closeness, but that does not mean they do not care. In many cases, after having time and space to regulate their emotions, avoidants begin to miss the connection they once had. However, their return is not guaranteed, and when it does happen, it depends on how safe they feel in reestablishing communication. For an avoidant, safety means emotional neutrality. If they anticipate confrontation, emotional intensity, or a demand for immediate closeness upon their return, they are more likely to stay distant. This is because avoidants are deeply uncomfortable with emotional pressure. When they return, they often do so tentatively, testing the waters to see if they will be met with criticism, guilt-tripping, or expectations they are not ready to fulfill. If they sense emotional intensity, they will retreat again, reinforcing their fear that relationships come with overwhelming demands. This is why maintaining emotional maturity during no contact is crucial. If an avoidant senses that the space they took was respected without punishment, they may feel more comfortable reconnecting. They need to believe that their return will not come with conditions or be used as an opportunity to confront them for leaving in the first place. Avoidants struggle with deep-seated fears of being controlled or engulfed, and if they feel that reaching out will lead to immediate pressure to explain themselves or make a commitment, they may decide that staying away is the safer option. At the same time, an avoidance return does not necessarily mean they are ready for a deeper emotional connection. Many avoidants come back simply because they miss the familiarity of the relationship, but that does not mean they have overcome their fear of intimacy. They often take small steps toward reconnection, hoping to reestablish contact without feeling overwhelmed. How the other person responds in these moments determines whether the cycle of distancing and returning continues or whether a healthier dynamic can be established. Ultimately, an avoidance return is not just about time apart, it is about whether they feel emotionally safe in coming back. This is why personal growth during no contact is so important. If the relationship dynamic remains the same, with one person chasing and the other withdrawing, the cycle will repeat itself. But if no contact has been used as a period of self-improvement, emotional detachment, then the relationship, if it resumes, has a chance to unfold in a way that is healthier and more balanced. No contact is a test of your own emotional strength because it challenges you to break patterns of dependency, regulate your emotions, and build inner resilience. When an avoidant pulls away, the instinctive reaction for many is to panic, chase, or seek reassurance. This is especially true for those with anxious attachment tendencies, as they fear abandonment and often equate distance with rejection. However, no contact forces a person to confront their deepest fears and learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions rather than acting impulsively. It is in this space of discomfort that real growth happens. Emotional strength is not about suppressing feelings or pretending not to care. It is about learning how to process emotions in a way that does not compromise self-worth. No contact brings to the surface unresolved wounds, whether they stem from childhood, past relationships, or personal insecurities. The absence of communication can feel unbearable at first, as the mind constantly seeks answers. Are they thinking about me? Will they come back? Did I do something wrong? The ability to resist the urge to seek closure externally and instead focus inward is what builds true resilience. Many people struggle with no contact because it feels like a loss of control. When someone withdraws, there is a temptation to try to fix the situation, to say the right words, or find a way to make them stay. But the reality is that genuine connection cannot be forced. No contact is a test of whether a person can let go of control and trust that what is meant for them will find its way back naturally. It is about recognizing that love should not require chasing or convincing, it should be freely given. During no contact, the real work happens in how a person chooses to spend their time. Instead of dwelling on the absence of the avoidant, the focus should shift to personal development. This could mean investing in hobbies, strengthening friendships, pursuing goals, or even seeking therapy to understand attachment patterns. The stronger a person becomes on their own, the less they feel the need to rely on an avoidance return for their sense of self-worth. The biggest revelation that often comes from no contact is realizing that survival without the avoidant is not only possible but empowering. Many people enter no contact hoping to bring the other person back, but by the time they have healed, they often find they no longer need that person the way they once thought. They develop the emotional strength to choose relationships that are mutually fulfilling and secure rather than ones that keep them in cycles of uncertainty. If they never return, they were never emotionally available anyway, and that truth, while painful, is also freeing. It is natural to hope that no contact will create enough space for an avoidant person to reflect, miss the connection, and eventually come back. However, this is not always the case. Some avoidants, particularly those with dismissive tendencies, may choose to stay away permanently, not because of anything the other person did wrong, but because they were never capable of sustaining deep emotional intimacy in the first place. Emotional unavailability is not something that can be fixed through patience, love, or even distance. If a person was always half in, reluctant to express emotions and avoided deep conversations. Their absence after no contact only confirms what was already present in the relationship, and unwillingness to fully engage. Avoidants who are extremely disconnected from their emotions may feel relief rather than loss when a relationship ends. Instead of processing heartbreak, they might suppress emotions entirely, convincing themselves that detachment is the best way to move forward. This reality is difficult to accept because it forces a person to confront the possibility that they invested time and energy into someone who was never truly available to them. It may feel unfair, especially if they gave their best effort to make the relationship work. However, recognizing emotional unavailability for what it is allows for clarity. It removes the false hope that waiting, chasing, or giving more will change the outcome. If someone is incapable of emotional closeness, no amount of love will make them ready. No contact is ultimately a tool for revealing the truth. If an avoidant comes back, it means there was at least some level of emotional investment. But if they never return, it means they were never ready for the relationship in a meaningful way. And while that truth might sting, it also provides an opportunity to move forward without illusions. The pain of losing someone emotionally unavailable is temporary. The pain of staying in a relationship where emotional needs are not met is far greater. Walking away from an emotionally unavailable person is not a loss, it is a step towards self-respect. It is a realization that love should not feel like uncertainty, distance, or constant effort to prove worthiness. If no contact leads to silence, it is a gift in disguise. It creates the space for someone who is not only willing but capable of reciprocating love in a way that is stable, secure, and fulfilling. The journey of understanding avoidant attachment and the impact of no contact is not just about the avoidant individual, it is about personal growth, emotional resilience, and self-worth. Many people approach no contact with the hope that it will serve as a tool to bring an avoidant back, but in reality, its greatest power lies in what it teaches about self-reliance and emotional independence. Avoidants pull away not because they do not care, but because they fear closeness and losing their sense of autonomy. When someone chooses to chase them, it only reinforces their belief that relationships come with overwhelming expectations. No contact provides them with space, but more importantly, it provides the other person with the opportunity to reflect, heal, and redefine their standards for emotional connection. One of the biggest challenges of no contact is resisting the urge to chase, fix, or control the outcome. Avoidants process emotions differently, often needing more time and distance than other attachment styles. While it may be difficult to accept, the healthiest thing one can do is allow them the space they require without trying to force a response. This period of separation should not be about waiting, but about focusing inward. Emotional strength is not found in clinging to someone who is unsure, but in learning to stand alone, secure in the knowledge that love should not require proving one's worth. No contact is not a strategy to manipulate an avoidance feelings. It is a test of one's own ability to let go and trust that the right connections will come back naturally if they are meant to. Avoidants often return when they feel safe, but their return does not always mean they are ready for deeper emotional intimacy. Many come back simply because they miss the comfort of the relationship, not because they have worked through their attachment fears. This is why personal growth during no contact is essential, so that if they do return, the decision to reconnect is made from a place of emotional clarity rather than need. If nothing has changed in the dynamic, the cycle of distancing and returning will only repeat itself, leading to more emotional exhaustion. True safety in relationships comes not from avoiding conflict or chasing unavailable people, but from establishing boundaries and choosing relationships that provide mutual emotional security. The hardest truth to accept is that some avoidants will never return, and that is a blessing in disguise. Those who were deeply emotionally unavailable were never capable of giving the love and security that a healthy relationship requires. No contact serves as a reality check. If they do not come back, it is not because of something that was done wrong, but because they were never ready to give more in the first place. Emotional availability cannot be forced, and staying in a relationship with someone who cannot meet basic emotional needs is far more painful than letting them go. Walking away is not about losing them, it is about gaining freedom from a connection that was never truly reciprocal. Ultimately, no contact is a path to self-empowerment. It is about recognizing that love should not feel like uncertainty, anxiety, or a constant struggle for validation. It is about understanding that a relationship should be a space of mutual respect, care, and emotional security, not a place of emotional avoidance and distance. Those who are truly meant to be in one's life will stay not because they are forced to, but because they choose to. The real success of no contact is not whether an avoidant comes back, it is in realizing that regardless of their decision, one's own worth and happiness do not depend on them. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this speech. I truly appreciate your presence and interest in understanding the complexities of relationships and personal growth. The journey of self-discovery and emotional strength is not always easy, but every step taken towards self-awareness brings clarity and peace. As you reflect on these insights, remember that your worth is not defined by anyone else's actions or absence. True strength lies in embracing your own growth, valuing yourself, and choosing connections that nurture and support you. No contact is not just a method, it is a pathway to self-empowerment and healing. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to share it, reflect on it, and use it as a guide in your own journey. Growth comes from learning, and every experience, whether joyful or painful, shapes you into a stronger, wiser individual. Once again, I sincerely thank you for your time and attention. Your journey towards self-love and emotional clarity is a powerful one, and I wish you strength, peace, and fulfillment along the way. Goodbye for now, and may you continue to move forward with confidence and self-assurance. Take care.